there are benefits to Brexit regarding the idea of national sovereignty. There are also negatives towards Brexit regarding the idea that we do not have a strong connection with Europe. And I agree with Charlie Downs. I agree that we should, in the future, with the rise of things like the AfD and the parties in France and Austria about to elect a far-right party, if Europe was to move towards complete nationalism within its respective nations, I don't think there's anything wrong with us having a close tie and maybe even a joint alliance with our European neighbours who we are extremely close to. Look at the situation with Greenland. Who took each other's side? It was America versus Europe. We should be focusing our relationship with Europe. So if we were to move towards a system where Europe was nationalist in its respective nations, there is nothing wrong with us seeking to join a bloc with them for defence, for trading, for partnership, as long as national sovereignty in each nation is respected, which is what a nationalist government would do. As long as that is respected and we have control over our own borders and the demographic security within our nations, so we can be homogeneous states, then absolutely there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, this is what I'm saying, that is what you need to move into in the future. I think Europe needs to move towards a collective state, because look at the rest of the world. You've got Russia, China, and those two are strong allies. They basically have this joint empire. China's eyes on Taiwan, obvious. China likes to control that area of the world. Very strategic plants over in Taiwan. The sea, the military strategy with Taiwan, very important for China. That is an empire that's already happening. America has a financial empire which is mainly ran outside of Wall Street, but also the Jewish empire that operates via America as a vessel. The Arabic empires, where you're seeing the things like Iran, and the backlash of the war with Iran is that you will see a stronger Arabic rebellion against Zionism within the Middle East. You're going to see the birth of these empires take place throughout the world. You already are beginning to see that. So what's important is we need to look towards how to defend ourselves in the ever-evolving world. It's not the idea about we join them and we share everything. No, absolutely not. But it's the idea that we build the connection towards them while still respecting our own nations. That is where I think Brexit went wrong. I think instead of Brexit sitting there with Nigel Farage saying it's about reclaiming our freedom and getting Brexit done and taking back control of our borders, well, that just didn't happen. The framing of Brexit would have been better if it was the EU as a neoliberal trading bloc does not work. There's no benefit to us. We're not getting anything out of it. We are being legislated over. Our borders are open. If Brexit had been a case of we need to leave this so we can build our own nationalist unity within Britain to become a nationalist state, if we left it on that basis and then said and campaigned on the outside for the rest of Europe to do the same, so they move towards nationalist states and genuine nationhoods, then you can campaign for a collective identity in Europe to be able to battle against the big evils of the world and the big empires of the world that seek to destroy us. But to do that, you have to remove international finance. You have to remove foreign influence. You have to have genuine nationalism within our countries. You cannot allow for ethnic replacement. You cannot allow for foreign wars to incline on your nations. All of that is going to lead to our nations being subverted, being dragged into wars, being tumbled into these states of chaos, and control. And we basically are like, you've got to put it like this. You've got to put it like this. International finance, the global world, the banks, the Jewish empire, that is like the Jabba the Hutt. And we are like the slave layer. We are slave layer under it. They said, hey, we're gonna get Brexit done. Right? They said we're gonna get Brexit done. It was like Nigel Farage was Boba Fett. We're gonna get Brexit done. That was the lie. This was the deal. He was a bounty hunter. And then Britain was slave layer. And he took slave layer, gave it to Jabba. Here's international finance. Here's America. You ever seen like the caricatures of Americans? They're all like fat. That is like the Jabba the Hutt. And now we're like shackled. So the EU in its current state does not work anyway. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I think that what we perceived as Brexit is not what happened. You were fed a lie. Remember all the money they said, we'll get all this money back for the NHS. We spend 15% of our GDP on... We spend 15% of our GDP on the NHS. We're going to get, what was it, $500,000 a week back from the NHS? Well, that didn't happen either. Why? Healthcare tourism. Our population still expanded by millions. Because then we had to spend that money back into the NHS to deal with the increasing population. 750,000 more people signed up for a GP last year. How can you claim that we're going to have more economic security and that our economy is going to benefit whilst you still import millions more people into the country? They can't just pay for themselves. There is not a single foreigner. There is not a single foreigner that is an economic benefit to this country en masse. The White Paper Institute proves that. The only people, the only race which is a net positive in the UK via taxation are white people. Every other one of them are a net negative. Somalis, for example, 20% of Somalia's GDP quite literally comes from Somalians in the first world sending back money to the third world. So how can we claim economic security, that we're going to have an economic boom when we're continuing to import low IQ, inbred retards that quite literally grift off of our economic system, grift off of our welfare system? It doesn't even make any sense.